Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. I'm a little under the weather, so my voice may seem more nasally than normal. Basically, this is just one of my chatty videos where I don't really show anything. I wanted to talk about a specific topic when it comes to what comic books to buy. I think sometimes we have these lists, or we would like to make lists, and what do we think we can get, what is realistic, and so forth and so on. So I just wanted to touch up on just a couple of things about that because it's really a very broad topic on what to buy. There's so many things to think about, so many things to consider, but I'm just going to talk about a couple of things. A lot of times, as you've noticed on our chats, the Wednesday night chats with the dudes, I'm one of the dudes, we get a lot of questions, sometimes in the chat and sometimes before the chat, about what books to buy when it comes to investments. I know a few things, but I certainly am not all-knowing. But there are a couple of things that I do know because I wrestle with a couple of issues when it comes to what comic books to buy for investment or whatever. Now, if we're talking about what comic books to buy, what should be the next big book I get? This is mainly just a conversation for those that are interested in getting big books or bigger books or whatever it is. What big book should I get next? I really, I'm a big EC fan. Should I get one of those big EC books? Or should I get something else? Should it be something that might be a little more liquid when it comes to investment, something that I know I could probably flip or sell down the line much quicker than an EC book or any other book? This is sometimes, where a lot of the conflict comes for a lot of us. I think sometimes if the collector in us wants to get a specific book because we'd like to fill a gap in our collection or to just have a new first appearance or whatever, or a nice new cover, what have you. But then sometimes we look at that same book and we say to ourselves, well, gee, down the line, do I think I'm really going to make, is this a good investment down the line? Because it's going to cost a decent amount of money to get. I'm talking about books that are not, excuse me, $20, $50, something that's going to cost way more than that. I'm going to spend all this money, and is it really going to be worth it in the end? Is this going to be something that holds its value? Is it something that's going to go up in value? Is it something that's going to go down in value? So sometimes I think what we want and what might be the better buy is in conflict. It's like, your heart versus your brain, you know what I mean? And those are some things that maybe some of you in the community, or just not in the community, just watch or trying to find out about comics wrestle with. Because, every now and then I wrestle with it. Look, for instance, for me, I'll use myself as an example. This year I altered my comic book want list because I started to think about some things that might be, books that I'd like to have in my collection, but out of those books, which ones I think would be better for me in the long run. Not necessarily because they're such a great investment, because there are very few books that I think are such great investments where you just get to really, really have so many rewards from it. But I do think there are a lot of books that will hold their value and maintain their value and go up in value to a certain extent. Does that make them terrific or great investments? Probably not. Does it mean that maybe you might make a few bucks? Absolutely, absolutely. So that's one of the reasons why I changed my list and how I collect nowadays. No, I don't need every first appearance that's out there. I don't need to run out and get all these first appearances. Now, let me stop myself for a moment. For those of you that like to get every first appearance you can get, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying this is now, I'm talking about me, how my collecting has changed. And when I look at what's the next book to get, the collector in me and the person that's looking a little bit farther ahead sometimes is in conflict, and so that's what I'm talking about here. So I'm not saying anything bad about you those of you that want to just get every first appearance you can, because you never know. But I'm just thinking about what would be the better buy, and sometimes that's in conflict for what I really want. I I guess the best thing, one of the best things that you can ask yourselves is this: for those of you that are struggling with what book to get, I want to get a big book, but which one? I'd ask yourselves, where do you see yourself 5, 10, 15 years from now? Now sometimes that's a hard question to ask, but it's, I think, a question you should keep in the back of your mind. Where do you see your collecting? Where do you see yourself in this hobby 5, 10, 15 years from now? If you would obviously know yourself better than I do. And if you can answer that question honestly, I mean, sometimes it's hard to answer those questions because you never know. But for those of us that know each other, that you know yourself pretty well, and you have an answer to that, you're honest with yourself. Where do you see yourself? I mean, if you're like somebody that's just trying to get into comics and you're not really getting into it, you may not see yourself in the hobby 5 years from now. But if you're somebody that's been in the hobby for a long time, such as myself and so many others that, out there, you probably will still be in the hobby 5, 10 years from now, realistically thinking, of course. That will definitely influence the books you buy, because those are the books that, in theory, you would like to have in your collection up until that time. And if you decide to sell them, you want to see if you could get the most amount of money, the most bang for your buck. I used to be one of those guys that said I would never sell anything. Well, that's changed since changing my outlook on changing my worldview on collecting and all that. I decided to focus more on books that I've always wanted, and most of those books that I've wanted are kind of expensive. So I said to myself, no, I don't need the first appearance, a high-grade copy of the first Dormammu. I really don't. I'd rather sell that book, or I'd rather the money that I was planning to use for that book to put, towards something else, use those resources for something else. So if you're somebody that's looking ahead, where you see yourself 5, 10 years from now, I would say that would definitely influence what type of books you buy. If you're looking to maybe cash out, or possibly cash out if you have to, years from now. And one of the things that ETA Nick has said is that if you're forced to sell pretty quickly, or something to that effect, I don't want to bastardize his words too much, but sometimes when you're forced to sell, sometimes it's very difficult to make money. So when you purchase something when we're talking about investment, when you purchase something that's meant for an investment, I would forget about it for a while. I mean, obviously you want to put thought into getting it, what you're going to spend, and all that stuff. Of course, it takes a lot of thought, but it's not something that you want to keep checking, on a daily basis. I mean, it's not a bad thing to check on a daily basis, but it's something that you want to store away. It's almost like a 401k. Your 401k is not something you want to cash out like next year or a couple years from now. That's a long-term investment in your retirement. Just like if you're looking for investment quality books, it's something that, yes, I'm going to buy, but you're probably not going to sell it for a while to maximize the most amount of money that you can make on that book when you decide to sell it. So I would think of it in those terms. Some books that I think are pretty good, to each his own. I mean, there are some books that I think are good, and some people may disagree with me, or may, agree with me. I don't know. But for those of you that just say, hey, I'm not really too interested in where I'm going to be 5, 10 years from now. I live for the moment. I'm not really interested that much in investment, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you should be thinking about it. No, I'm not saying that at all. This video is mainly for people that sometimes struggle with those issues, or struggle with that question, and it might shed some light on it by asking yourself some questions about, where do you see yourself? I mean, I would say those are questions you would ask yourself in all walks of life. For those of you that just graduated high school, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Well, 5 years from now is when you get your degree, if you decide to go for a degree, a job, and so forth. Especially in today's society, generation, you have a lot of competition out there. You really should think ahead on where you want to be. And this is probably no news to anybody out there. I'm not giving you this revelation, but it goes the same. It's the same thing with comic book collecting and a bunch of other things. let's see what else. I always write down my notes. Where I am presently, I think a lot of people already know where I'm at right now. Like I said, I've changed about some of my collecting habits. I've been upgrading a lot. I've been upgrading some Amazing Spider-Mans, which I can't wait to show in August, or most likely at the end of July. I've been doing that, having a lot of fun. I've noticed that really makes the hobby a lot more fun for me. Doing those sort of things, upgrading books that I've always wanted to upgrade, really enjoying the hobby, and sticking with some bigger books, than just worrying about grabbing this. It's good to diversify. Anybody would tell you that, of course, but it's also good to have a focus too. If you're looking for investment quality books, and I'm going to close in another moment or two, you got to ask yourself one thing. The book that I'm buying, is it going to be something that you think people are going to be interested in years from now? When you have a book like that, then you know you have a certain amount of power. You have a certain amount of security. When you're looking, like going back to what ETA Nick said, it's like if you're just trying to quickly sell, you don't have that power. And most of the time you might sell for way less than what you intended to do. And that's not a very good spot to be in anything, whether it's comic books or anything else. I know sometimes you're put into situations where you have no choice. So I hope that if you have any questions, you can always put them in the comments. I'll answer them. And maybe if you have any other suggestions on another video that you'd like me to talk about, topics that you would like me to talk about in another video, I'd be glad to do that and answer some more questions and so forth. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to the Heroes Con. Looking forward to meeting a couple of YouTubers there. Me and my wife are going, so that's going to be pretty fun. This is her second convention that she's going to, and I think that this time around she has a better attitude about it, which is going to make the trip and the actual event more pleasant. And after that's probably going to be the next comic book haul, my Uncanny haul. It's, there's really only one Uncanny book in that haul, so whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on for me over the next couple of weeks. But hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.